All right, today's video is about how to ollie into a manual. We're gonna teach you the most important things that you need to get right to absorb your landings and to hold your manual, and to also be able to ollie onto the manual pads comfortably so you can manual all the obstacles around a skate park with ease. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss a single video from us. Let's get to it. To ollie into a manual, whether it's on flat ground or on a manual pad, you're gonna have to have really smooth, well-balanced ollies and super strong manuals. The manual has to be so strong because you're gonna have to absorb the landing in a manual and then stand back up. While you're absorbing the landing, that little bit of squat and that little bit of extra pressure down into the manual will be really hard to navigate if you don't have strong manuals. Some things you need to get right to have a good manual is having a little bit of bend in both legs, because this promotes good habits. If you have a little bit of bend in both legs, you can move that board around underneath you really well, compared to if your back leg is straight, which if there's a leg that gets straight, mostly it's a back leg. That makes your hips want to slide back a little bit too far. And then that creates this look, this feeling that you see all the time, right? A very simple demonstration. If I bend both my knees, I can hold this manual for a very long time. But as soon as I straighten this leg and my hip flies out, manual's over, because my chest is gonna fall forward, trap the nose to the ground. Another thing that I really like about bending both knees is once you can manual with them bent, then it doesn't matter as much how much you bend them. The hard part is learning how to get that first manual with a little bit of knee bend. Once you get this right, you can start squatting more or less, and it doesn't really change the manual a whole lot. But going from a straight leg manual to a bent knee manual is a big change. So make sure you can manual for about 10 seconds with both knees bent, and give a small squat and stand back up before you worry too much about ollieing and then landing in a manual. So you're really gonna need that skill to be strong, to have a real shot at catching your ollies and landing consistently in manuals. Manuals are not something that you will perfect ever. It's a great thing to practice a little bit every single day. If you wanna give yourself 3 to 5 minutes a day where you're just trying to hold manuals, maybe stationary, maybe while rolling, keep mixing it up so you don't get too bored, because at first, manuals will be quite difficult to hold. And if you practice them for an hour or 2 hours, a bunch of times for like 10 days straight, and you just really struggle holding it right, you might get burnt out. 5 minutes every single day, every single time you skate, over time, you'll have these breakthroughs and you will get through those plateaus. The first thing for an ollie manual is you want the smallest, softest, most consistent ollie that you can do. If you have trouble judging if you can hit your tail on the ground or not, you're gonna have a tough time landing in a manual, because you need to trust the process of your ollie to land consistently with confidence to hold it, right? If you're jumping and you're not getting that feedback from the tail hitting the ground, or your board is sliding a little forward, your timing's off, things like that, that's gonna make it almost impossible to land in a manual consistently, because then doubt will creep in. If you miss your tail, you're just not ready, and maybe that leg straightens and you end up in a weird position. Manuals take a lot of balance, so your ollies have to be really smooth and really consistent so you can give yourself the best chance to hold the manual when you do land it. I recommend learning ollie manuals while rolling, and pick specific spots on the ground as if it were a manual pad. So you can pick, okay, I'm gonna ollie over this crack, do a small, tiny little ollie, I'm gonna land, and I'm gonna manual right through this second crack. This gives you a very specific goal, something to ollie over and something to manual across. If you can do that on flat ground, you already have the tools to manual a manual pad. If you love skateboarding and want to get better, faster, it's time to join the Skate IQ team. And right now, you can sign up absolutely free. You'll get access to all of our training programs, plus our exclusive 3-phase program that you won't find anywhere else. If that all sounds great and you're looking for more personalized feedback, you can submit your videos to my weekly video review, where I give you a detailed breakdown so you know exactly what to work on next to reach your goals. Join now, and I'll see you inside. Now that you have the basics down of doing an ollie manual on flat ground, let's take it to a manual pad. The first thing I want you to think about is we're not just gonna practice our ollie manuals on flat ground, and then as we get better at it, jump higher and land harder. That's not really a reasonable thing to practice. You can practice it if you want. That's not my homework to you. The next skill I want you to master is landing as soft as you possibly can on the manual pad when you ollie up onto it. So if you don't have the control to ollie onto a manual pad and you go like, and you're smashing down onto it, you're just gonna have a hard time. If it's a bigger manual pad, set your front foot up lower on the board. This will make it easier to ollie higher. If it's a lower manual pad, set your front foot up a little bit higher on the board, up closer to the front bolts to help keep the manual small naturally. The thing that I want you to focus on as you're ollieing up the manual pad, instead of treating it like you are just jumping and landing on top, I want you to try to keep your head pretty still and just bring your back foot up into place and try to land as soft as you can. If you can tell, my head really isn't moving that much for the height of the ollie. This will keep your wheels soft, and this will also take away the fear that comes from jumping and trying to land in a manual. It's a little bit awkward. To put it simply, when you ollie onto the manual pad, bring your board up to you instead of trying to jump super high away from it. And if you're always landing on 4 wheels instead of 2, where you're having trouble holding your front wheels in the air, when you ollie, just shift your board forward a little bit. You see how sensitive that is. If I push that board forward, I'm gonna go off the back. But that's a great way to guarantee that you'll land on your back wheels. All too often, I see people trying to get manuals by leaning forward and backwards. And honestly, that's not how it works. Like, you don't ever lean backwards to do a manual. All you do is shift that board forward. Keep your weight where it is. Use your knees to absorb it. And you'll be manualing forever. I want you to have good control of your eyes while you're doing your manuals. And the main thing is, I don't want you to cut yourself short. A lot of times when you're in a manual, it's easy to look directly at the edge of the manual pad, like somewhere over in this zone, right before the manual is over. And you'd be surprised with how many manuals end like this, where you just barely can't get off the edge. And I think that's because subconsciously you're telling yourself the manual is gonna be over a little bit before it is. So keep your eyes all the way to the edge and imagine skating out of the manual. You're keeping your eyes forward as you're approaching the ledge. Don't get too stuck staring right at it, because that might drag your front wheels down towards it. We're very target focused. Humans are very target focused. Whatever you look at and focus on, you will move towards it. So make sure once you lock in your manual, you let your eyes drift forward and you aim further out into the distance. It will work more often than you'd think. Your foot position when you land in the manual is super important. The big thing that I want you to pay attention to is your back foot landing in the proper spot on the tail. If you land with your back foot too much towards the heel side, boom, you're gonna crush your trucks down front side. If you land with your back foot too far off of the tail, you're gonna be unstable with your ankle. The sweet spot is really to have the ball of your foot on the toe side of the bag bolts on the tail. This lets you push on your back foot to turn your back truck's backside, and it also lets you push on your heel to turn your back truck's front side. Now that you know what to do with your back foot, it's a good idea to adjust your front foot as well. You can keep your front foot high towards the nose. That doesn't really bother me at all. And that's naturally where you're gonna land a lot of the time. If you can land with your front foot a little bit lower, this gives you a lot more room to start ollieing and doing tricks out of your manual. But if you're struggling getting into your manual, you can just land with a pretty wide base. That's no problem at all. And as you want to progress and start adding more tricks on the way out, you can land with your front foot lower and lower. It's quite difficult to adjust your front foot in the middle. Go for it. You're chilling in the middle of your manual, but you can do it. To have good ollie manuals, make sure you set your front foot the right position to pop. Pay attention to bring the board up to you, absorb the landing in the manual, and keep your eyes forward beyond your target to help lend it so you manual further than if you just stare down at the ground or at the end of the ledge. All right, well, thanks for watching. I hope you got a lot out of it. Make sure you like and subscribe so you never miss a video from us, ever, ever, ever. All right, see ya. That's sick.